In this video for Computer Science 9618 A-Level, we're going to take a look at a past paper 4 exam question. This one was requested. It focuses on object-oriented programming, but includes inheritance and text files. So the following past exam question also addresses the following things using object-oriented programming, because it's not just about knowing object-oriented programming, but knowing certain things that you can incorporate with object-oriented programming. You got to know how to declare a class, declaring properties, also known as attributes, using a language-appropriate constructor, writing set and get methods, how to open an existing text file and pull information from that text file, how to do inheritance, including a superclass, which is also known as a parent class, and a base class, and a child class, also known as a subclass. You also need to know how to override a method, which is not the same thing as overloading, and using the try parse method. If you can do these things, you'll be able to ace this question. Now, if you do the basics, you get to paper 4 and you're like, I understand the basics, but I don't understand the harder, more difficult things. That's okay, because doing the basics will earn you lots of points. So doing the basics for this question is worth 12 points. And they tell you what they want for each part. It's given to you. There's nothing to figure out there. It is all given to you. You just keep calm and translate what they want and what they give you to code. If you can do the class part, that's declaring the class, writing the attributes, writing the constructor, you're going to get some easy points there. If you can write set methods, and there's a general rule for set methods, these take a parameter and they return absolutely nothing. The point of a set method is sets the value of the attribute for that set method you're writing. The get methods, it doesn't accept a parameter and it returns the value of an attribute, because remember, all attributes or properties are going to be private, and because they're private, we cannot directly access them. That is the point of set and get methods. Now, again, because this question comes up quite often, how do we know if we need a constructor that sets the values, or how do we know if we need set methods? Well, that's going to be given to you in the question. So let's take a look at the first part of the question so we know what we need to do. To declare the class, public class, and they give us the name, and we have to use that name employee. Now, when you create your attributes, they all need to be private. It's the same way you declare variables normally. The only difference is, instead of using the word dim for dimensionalize, you're going to use the word private. So all we do now is we type in what they told us. Hourly pay, that's a real number, which is a decimal. The next one they wanted was the employee number. That was a string. And we just keep doing private all the way down. We have the job title. That was also a string. Now for the last one, we have the pay, which is an array. Doesn't matter. We do it the same way we normally do. Pay year 2022. We have a max index of 51 because there's 52 weeks in a year. You may be saying, why are we doing 51? Because we remember when you count 0 to 51, that's going to be 52 weeks. And that is going to be a decimal. So when you declare your attributes, what's the difference between that and variables? You use the keyword private, and when we create an object, each object is going to have its own set of attributes. Let's take a look at writing the constructor. Okay, so we're going to do the constructor, public sub new, never an exception to that rule. So it accepts 3 parameters: hourly pay, employee number, and job title. So we're going to do by val h as a decimal. The next one is employee number. That is a string, and the last one after that is going to be the job title, which is a string. So we're just going down the list: hourly pay, employee number, and job title. So we're just going to set those. So our hourly pay, what is that equal to? That's equal to the parameter h. The next one I passed was employee number. So employee number equals e, and then the last one is the job title, and that is equal to j. So those are the parameters that are passed. Now, what you want to be on the lookout here for is if you have to do an array in the constructor. Here, I didn't use I, and I stands for index. When you're doing a for loop, you're accessing each index of, for this part, pay year 2022. If one of your attributes is going to be I, you're not going to be able to use I. But when you create a for loop in VB, you can use any variable you want. I'm going to use I. I'm going to go 0 to 51. I need to access each index of pay year 2022. And what are we setting that to? 0.0. And just like that, we've picked up all 5 points. But we have our constructor, public sub new, 1, 2, 3 parameters. And all I did was, and what makes it super easy, because you can put them in any order you want. I know hourly pay, employee number, and job title was passed. So I'm going to do it in the same order as my attributes just to make sure I account for every single one. You can put these parameters in these lines, 3 lines of code in any order you want. But why, work harder and put things out of order? Just keep them in order to keep you relaxed so you can keep calm and code on through question 3. But part A1 is done. Let's take a look at the next part. The method getEmployeeNumber returns the employee number. Let's write that get method. When you're writing a get method, it's always going to be public function and get. What are we getting? We're getting the employee number. Now, get methods do not accept a parameter, but they do return something. What's my return data type? Well, if I'm getting the employee number, I look up here at employee number, I see its data type is a string. So I do as string, and I'm returning the employee number. That's all you do, and you pick up 2 points. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next part of the question. All right, so part 3 and 4, the method setpay takes a week number and the number of hours worked that week as parameters, calculates the pay for that week by multiplying the hourly pay by the number of hours worked that week. So we're going to set that value based on the parameters that are passed. Stores the calculated pay in the appropriate index for that week and pay year 2022. So we're going to get 3 points for that set method. And then the method getTotalPay, it just returns the total of all the values and pay year 2022. We write program code for the method getTotalPay. So let's swing over to VB. Let's do that right now. When you create your set methods, it's going to be public sub. And what are we setting? We're setting the pay. Now, we said that set pay takes 2 parameters. The first one is the week number. Now, that week number is going to be an integer. Then it's going to be hours. And the hours paid is also going, or the hours worked to get the pay is also going to be an integer. Now, we need to access pay year 2022. Now, which index are we accessing? Well, it's going to be week number. But remember, what if they type in week 52? Well, there is no index 52 because we included 0. What if they type in week 1? Well, that's actually going to be the second index. So how do we handle that? We're going to take that week number they pass. We're going to -1. What are we setting that index equal to? Well, I want to know how many hours they worked. I want to multiply that by their hourly pay, and we have set their pay. Now let's go ahead and let's do the get method. Okay, we're going to be getting the total pay, and the keyword is get, which means it's going to be a function. So we're going to get the total pay. Doesn't accept any parameters. What data type is it returning? Well, the pay, when we go through the pay year, that is an actual decimal number. So we're setting that because if we look at that array, it's of the decimal data type. So you want to keep that in mind. If you return an integer, it's going to not give you the appropriate amount, and you may lose a point on the Cambridge exam. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do total as decimal. Now we can't return, we can't use return here and just return what we're calculating right away, because then it's only going to calculate the first week. We got to go through each index of pay year 22 and adding it to total, and then return the total amount. So we're going to do for I equals 0 to 51. We're going to do total plus equals, and we are tacking on the pay year 2022 index I. Once we have the total, we simply return the total, and just like that, our set method for setting the pay and getting the pay is done. Let's take a look at the next part of the question. The child class manager inherits from the parent class employee. So here, inheritance is being used by the keyword inherits. We also have the word child class, which means employee is going to be our super class, also known as our parent class or base class. So different terms that can be used to describe the exact same thing. Now, a manager gets a bonus. This bonus value is a percentage. For example, 10%. When calculating the pay, the number of hours the manager worked that week is increased by the bonus value. So the number of hours is increased, not the pay. Now, when you set the bonus value, that will definitely increase the pay because it has you working more hours. Notice we also have a constructor. Each class has its own constructor. Now it says it takes the bonus value, hourly pay, employee number, and job title as parameters, initializes bonus value to its parameter value. Well, you may be saying, yeah, but it doesn't have those attributes. All I see is bonus value. Because it's inheriting the parent class employee, it automatically gets the attributes that are found inside the employee class. So it's going to have those attributes, and it's also going to have bonus value, which is found in the manager class, but not the employee class. And then we have a set pay method. Now, this says takes the week number of hours worked as parameters, increases the number of hours worked by the bonus value, calls the set pay method from the parent class. So we actually need to override the set pay method later on. Write program code to declare the class manager. You only need to declare the class and its constructor. This means we need to declare bonus value as our attribute. We need to write the constructor. Now the constructor takes the bonus value, hourly pay, employee number, and job title as parameters. We are going to need to pass hourly pay, employee number, and job title to the constructor found in the superclass because we can't access hourly pay, employee number, and job title. Remember, those attributes are private. So we need to pass those as to the parameters to the constructor in our superclass so we can assign those values, and then we're going to initialize bonus value to whatever the parameter value is. So let's swing over to VB and let's do that right now. Now, before we start, we need to take a look at this constructor. The order of the parameters matter. You can write the parameters in any order you want. When you start mixing them up and switching them around, you're going to have to pay attention to what the order is. Because I kept them in the same order, I'll know what they are. Because I'm going to need to pass the hourly pay, employee number, and job title value to these parameters from this other class. So keep that in mind. It only takes a few seconds to go back and check the order. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do public class manager. And you want to spell manager appropriately. Here, notice I'm outside my end class. You don't want to put one class inside of another. It inherits. Inherits what? It inherits employee. That means it's going to have all the attributes. Don't worry about this red line. When you start typing, you're going to get a red line. You're going to think you did something wrong. You haven't done anything wrong yet. It's just saying, hey, you're going to need a constructor that accesses the constructor inside the employee class because that's what you are inheriting. Now, it does have an additional attribute, and that is bonus value. And that is a decimal because they gave us an example. They said it's like 10%, which is 0.1. So we'll need to factor that in later on. Now, we're going to do public sub new. Now, this needs to take 4 parameters. The first one it needs to take is hourly pay. So I'm going to do by val h as integer. Or no, the hourly pay is a decimal data type. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Then the employee number, that was a string. We also have the job title. The last one I have is the bonus value. And then that doesn't return anything. Now, notice we still have a red line under new. We have to call the super constructor. How do I call the super constructor inside my parent class? You're going to do my base. That means call the base class. Okay, what method do we want from the base class? We want the constructor, which is new. Notice we have a red line. Why? Because there are 3 parameters inside the employee constructor. So I need to pass those 3 parameters. I'm passing the hourly pay, the employee number, and the job title. Now that red line is gone. Oh, we forgot the data type for B. That is a decimal. And then we need to set the bonus value. Now, the bonus value is set to B. Just like that, we have our entire class, we have the additional attribute, and we've called the super constructor appropriately. My base refers to the base class. The base class is employee, because that's what manager is inheriting. The .new says what method we want to call from our base class or parent class or super class. And we want to call the constructor, which is public sub new. We pass those three parameters and all our red lines are gone. Let's take a look at the next part of the question. The manager method setPay overrides, and that is the keyword we're looking for. That's extremely important. It overrides the method from the parent class and takes the week number and number of hours worked as parameters, just like the original one does. Increases the number of hours worked by the bonus value. That is not how the original setPay method works, called setPay from the parent class. So we're going to do that. We're going to set all that, and then we're going to recalculate it. Now, we need to make the setPay method inside the parent class overridable, and then use the keyword overrides inside the manager class. Let's take a look and set all that up right now. Okay, so because we're overriding a method, the first thing we want to do is find that setPay method. Here it is, and we want to make it overridable. So we're going to do public sub, and before the sub, you do overridable right there, just like that. Now, when we create the sub setPay, public sub setPay, we can do override. So public overrides, and that means it's going to act differently than the one inside the parent class. So it's going to have, if we do public sub setPay, you'll see here that it's found the right one, and we can use those same. Now, because we're overriding it, we do need to call the setPay from the base class. So my base refers to the super class, just like it did here when we did the constructor. .setPay refers to the method we want to access. Now we are going to pass the week number in hours, but remember, a manager has a bonus value, and that bonus value affects the number of hours that are worked. So we're going to do bonus hours as a decimal here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the bonus hours equal to, now we're going to take that bonus value, we're going to divide that by 100, and then we're going to add 1. Why are we adding 1? Let's say it's 10%. When we do 10 divided by 100, that comes out to 0.1. We don't want to multiply the hours they worked by 0.1 because that's only going to give them 10% of the original hours. We don't want to give them, we don't want to subtract 90% from the hours they worked. We want to, that's a bonus, so that's why we're adding 1. We don't want to multiply the hours they worked by 0.10, but rather 1.10, or whatever the bonus value is. So what we're going to do is we're going to set H. Actually, we don't need to set H. We can just do it right here in this parameter. We're going to do H times bonus hours, because the parameter that we're passing is however many hours they worked, which is accepted here, but then we're also factoring in those bonus hours, and the bonus hours is that bonus value that they have, which we calculated right here. So we have overridden the setPay method. We used overrides to let VB know, hey, this method works a little differently than the setPay method. This is the part that is different. Then we call the setPay method so we can actually set the pay, because remember, the manager class has all the attributes from the super class or the employee class, so we definitely need to use that setPay method, but we want to calculate those bonus hours first. So let's take a look at the next part of the question. The main program has a global 1D array, so main program, submain. The global 1D array is called employee array to store data about 8 employees. Now, each employee is stored as an object of type employee, so we are creating a 1D array of objects, which is great because we can go over that too. The file employees.txt stores data about the employees in the order of hourly pay, employee number, bonus value where included, and the job title. Now, only employees who are managers have a bonus value saved. For example, the first employee is a junior developer with an employee number 12452, an hourly pay of $15.22. This employee does not have a bonus value. The third employee is an interface manager with the employee number 02586, an hourly pay of $22.50. This employee has a bonus value of 5.25%. Write the submain to do the following. Declare the array to store data about 8 employees, read in the data from the file for each employee, instantiate, a fancy way of saying creating each employee as either employee, if the employee does not have a bonus value, or manager, if the employee has a bonus value. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the try parse method for that, because we don't know if they're going to be an employee or a manager. So that's where the try parse method is going to come into play. So let's swing over to VB.net and let's code this out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the very top and I'm going to import system.io. That's so I can create a stream reader. Now, I need to create a global 1D array called employee array. Now, that goes outside the class, but outside submain. So I simply do employee array. I'm going to have a max index of 7. I'm going to include index 0, and that's going to be of employee data type. If you try to do new employee, you're going to get a red line. It cannot create 8 employees at a time. Now we need some variables. So I'm going to do temp pay. That's the first line in the file. That's going to be a decimal. And I'm using temp pay so I know that those are going to be the parameter values that I'm going to pass to the constructor. We also need temp ID. That is going to be a string. Now, the third line in the file is either going to be the bonus, which means we need to read an additional line for the title, or it's just going to be the job title. So I'm going to do temp bonus as a decimal, or it's going to be a job title. So I'm going to do temp title as string. Now, how can I determine whether or not it's a job title or a bonus? Well, these are two different data types here. So what I need to do is I'm going to have just a temp, and it's going to be a title or bonus. And I'm going to do that as a string, because when we use the try parse method, it needs a string. So that title or bonus, it's going to hold one of those values. I'm going to use the try parse for that. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to do dim file handle as stream reader. Those are the values that I'm going to need. So I'm going to do our try catch statement. We're going to say error loading the file, because we need to find that employees.txt file. Inside this try statement, we're going to open up the employee file. We're going to go through each line. We're going to determine, do we need to create a new manager object, or do we need to create an employee object? And that's going to be stored inside the employee array. Let's take a look at how that works. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is file handle equals new system.io.stream reader, and then we're going to open up the employees.txt file. Now, because they're using a plural form of employees, it has to be spelled correctly, not because it's a plural form, but it needs to be spelled correctly, and it needs that S on the end. Otherwise, you're going to get the error loading the file. The next thing we need to do is we need to run a for loop. So we're going to do for I equals 0 to 7, because we're going to create 8 employees. It's either going to be a manager or it's going to be an employee. So the first thing we need to do is start reading these lines. I know the first 2 lines are going to be temp pay followed by temp ID. So all I'm going to do here is temp pay equals file handle dot read line, and then temp ID, it's going to be the second line, file handle dot read line. So that's why we have that there. And if you ever have a red line and you're typing quickly, it may take a moment to go away. So before you start stressing, give it a chance for that red line to go away. Now, the third line is either going to be a job title or it's going to be a bonus. I'm going to use temp title or bonus here. So temp title or the bonus is going to be file handle dot read line. Now, when you use a try parse statement, it's going to return either a true or a false value. So it's going to return a Boolean data type. I don't need to store it. I can just handle it in an if statement. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do if decimal dot try parse. And what that means is I'm going to try to take a value. I'm going to try to see if it will successfully convert to a decimal. Because if the job title is, say, web developer, that can't be converted to a decimal because that's a string. So it's going to return a false value. So I'm going to do temp title or bonus. It's holding either a percentage, a decimal data type, or it's holding a string. So I'm going to do temp title or bonus. Now, if this is successful and it can be converted to a decimal, I'm going to store that in temp bonus. That's what the second one means. So if decimal.try parse, we're trying to parse this to see if it's a decimal. If it is a decimal, we're going to store whatever value is here inside temp bonus. If it's not successful, then we know there is no bonus and that must be the job title. So if it is successful, there's one more line I need to read, and that's for the temp title. So my temp title equals file handle dot read line. If it's not a bonus, then I know I'm at the end and we can loop back around to the for loop. So we're going to have an else statement that handles this. Now, if there is a bonus, we know it's a manager. So we're going to do employee I equals. Now, we're going to create a new manager and we need to pass those values. Now, when we look back at the constructor, we did it by pay, we did it by employee number, and we did it by job title. So I need to keep that as well. So again, that is pay number title. So down here, I'm going to pass temp pay. I'm going to pass the ID. So that is temp ID, which is the employee ID, and then the job title. So temp title, I'm going to pass that. And then I need to pass the temp bonus as well, because those are the four things being accepted. So here we have employee I, employee, oh, it's not employee, it's employee array. There we go. I was wondering why we had a red line. Now, if it's not a manager, then I know I need to create a brand new employee because he doesn't have temp bonus. This will only take this and put it in temp bonus if it needs to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do, now we already read the line, so you can't do another read line because there's not a fourth one. If it's just a employee, they have 3 lines. So all I need to do here is I'm going to do employee array I equals new employee, and I'm going to pass that temp pay, I'm going to pass that temp ID, and I'm going to pass the temp title or bonus. And here, temp title equals, yep, that will work right there. Because the temp title or bonus is going to hold the title. Now, if you want to, you could do this. Temp title equals temp title or bonus. You can do that and then change this to temp title. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna leave it as temp title or bonus. So that'll work right there. Now, after this loop, we need to close our file handle.close, and just like that, that should handle everything, because if it's not a manager, we're creating an employee, and the employee only takes 3 parameters as opposed to 4. I'm going to check this manager constructor because it only takes a second. So it's going to be hourly pay, the employee ID, the job title, and then the bonus. Okay, want to make sure that bonus value that I'm passing is correct. These order of parameters do matter. So just like that, we are done with that one. Let's take a look at the next part of the question. So part C, that was a pretty tricky question. I don't know how else you would do it without triparse. So make sure if you are not familiar with triparse, you go back and take a look at it so you can really understand how to use it. They have it for several different data types and it all works the same way. I also have a paper 4 tips and tricks video. It shows you how to do a multitude of different things that you may need to use on paper 4 to be 100% successful. So make sure you check that out. That's below in the description. Now, question 3, part D. The file, hours week 1. So here we have another file. Stores the number of hours each employee has worked in week 1 in the order of employee number, number of hours worked. For example, the first set of data is for employee 21548 who has worked 50.0 hours. The procedure, enter hours, reads in the values from the file, so it's going to read those 2 lines, finds the location of each employee in employee array, calls the method setpay for each employee, write program code for enter hours. So let's go ahead, swing over to VB, and let's code that out. All right, public sub enter hours. Doesn't return anything, takes no parameters. I need to do a file handle as stream reader again. Then I need the employee num. That's a string, the employee number. And then I want the hours that they worked as a decimal because it said 50.0. So if another employee works with a fractional of an hour, we need to make sure that we record that. Then I need a try catch statement. Anytime we're opening a file, you want to have a try catch statement. So console.writeLine, file not found, or any type of appropriate message. Now, what we need to do is we need to loop through there and get we need to loop through this stream reader or this hours week 1 file. We need to loop through that and get the employee number. It doesn't, it's not in order. So we need to make sure that we search through each object looking for that. So file handle equals new system.io.stream reader. And the name of the file is hours week1.txt. We want to be able to open that. Now, I know the employee number is going to be the first thing. So I'm going to do for I equals 0 to 7, not object to 7, but 0 to 7. So then I know the employee number is going to be the first thing in the file. So I do file handle.readLine. Now what I need to do is I need to search through my array looking to see if the current employee object, if their employee number matches what is in this file. If it does, I need to read the next line, which will have the hours, and then I can call the setPay method. So I'm going to do if employee array j dot get employee number. If that equals the employee number that I temporarily stored, then I found the right employee. That means the next line in the file is going to be hours. So file handle dot read line. Then what I can do is I can call that setPay method. So I'm going to do employee array, the current index I'm on. Now, each employee has a different pay. So I'm going to do setPay. And setPay takes 2 parameters, the week number, which is 1, and the hours they worked. And just like that, we have everything we need to set the pay. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to close the file. File handle.close. So we have our try catch statement. We're going to go through. Oh, also, after we do this, let's make it, we don't need to continue searching for the rest because each one has a unique employee number. So once we find the employee number we're looking for, we read, we get the hours, we set the pay, we exit this loop so we can go back to this inner loop. Because if we're looking for an employee array index 0, if we're looking for that employee, we don't need to search index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because we already found them. So we put this exit for only if the employee number matches the employee number from the file. Let's take a look at the next part of the question. All right, last part for the object-oriented programming question. The main program needs to call enter hours and use the method get total pay to output the employee number and the total pay for each of the 8 employees. I'm in the main program, which is submain, to perform these tasks. Then test our program and take a screenshot. So let's swing over to VB. Let's call inner hours and get total pay, and let's wrap this program up. Okay, we find our submain. Definitely want to load all the and create all the objects first. Then we call enter hours. All we need to do now is we need to run a for loop and output the employee number and their pay. So all I'm going to do is console.writeLine. I'm going to do my employee array I.get employee number, and I need to output their pay. So I'm going to do and their pay, put a space, and then employee array again. Use I, and then dot get total pay. That method that we wrote at the very beginning. All right, all we need to do now is run and test our program, make sure it outputs correctly. All right, so I opened the files so we can see what the expected output should be. You are allowed to open these files, and I recommend you do so you know what the expected output should be. We opened this employees.txt file, and this is to build the objects for the employee array. Here we can see the junior developer does not have a bonus because he's not a manager. He'll be an employee. And 12452 is his ID number. That is the second thing that was in the file was temp ID. So we definitely want to make sure we know that 12452 is up first. 21548 is up second. 02586, which is the interface manager, does have a bonus. So we should see 02586, not 5.25 as the ID number. We want to make sure that all these numbers output. So 12452, 21548, 02586. If those output, then we can be pretty sure that our program's going to work. Now, for the hours week 1, we can see that this order, 21548, does not match the order over here. 21548 is the second employee. That's why we had the nested for loop, because we had to search through each index of the employee array to find the ID number that matches this one in the file, so we could assign the hours. So we have 50 hours, 48, 51, 47.5, 47.5, 28.5. Those are decimals. I don't think our hours and our set pay are decimals. Yep, they're not. When we see the set pay, we set hours as an integer. That's going to affect the actual expected output. Okay. We have a red line. That's because it doesn't match the one in our parent class. So we got to change both of these to decimal. And now we should get the expected output. All right, let's run this, make sure we're getting the expected output. 12452 should be up first. There we go. Those are the expected outputs right there. I calculated the pay for each of them. Wish I would have noticed the decimal earlier on when I was doing the calculations, but I didn't. But I noticed it now after we went through it. And these are the expected pay. We have no employee ID. That's the same as somebody else because they're all unique. And this was the order that we built the objects based on the order of the file. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please take a moment to help me out by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to help the channel grow. And we'll see you guys in the next programming video.